imagine the generational hate that the IWC will have when Brock Lesnar costs Oba Femi the King of the Ring tournament and hands it to Jey Uso. Yeet! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Cinema. I am Money Mike, and yeah, I am wearing this to, number one, show you guys, I am a Jey Uso fan. This is in no way to hate on Jey Uso. You know, I was right there, WrestleMania 41 last year, yeeting along the way when he won the World Heavyweight Championship. But by no means should he win the King of the Ring tournament. And you could debate whether or not he should have won the qualifying match on SmackDown. But when you look at who's left in the King of the Ring tournament, you kind of realize there's only two superstars who could win it, and we either have a good option or a bad option. So let's talk about it. And we'll also talk about the Queen of the Ring as well, because Rhea Ripley is out indefinitely with a knee injury, and that has an impact on the Queen of the Ring tournament. So we'll talk about the Queen of the Ring tournament as well. So just as a reminder, this will go up before Monday Night Raw. So I have no idea if Brock Lesnar will show up on Raw tonight, nor will I know if the WWE will give us an update on Rhea Ripley before or during Raw. So this is just pure speculation on my part. Alright, let's look at the Brock Lesnar Oba Femi side of things here. You know, a lot of fans have speculated that Brock Lesnar Oba Femi 3 will take place at SummerSlam. This will be Brock's retirement match, and it's kind of weird that we are all assuming that this will be Brock Lesnar's retirement match because, it's in Minnesota, but we've had no indication that Brock is going to retire. You know, like when we go back to WrestleMania, when Brock took his gloves off originally and everything else, and it was like, oh my gosh, he's retiring. This was his last match. Like, Brock didn't announce ahead of time that, like, oh, my match against Oba WrestleMania will be a last match. Oh, I'm going to retire after this year, blah, blah, blah. Like, a lot of Brock Lesnar's retirement speculation has just been that. So, even if Brock Lesnar faces Oba Femi, who says it's going to be he's retiring at SummerSlam, you know? Which does lead me to believe that maybe Oba Femi could win the King of the Ring tournament. He beats Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. And that maybe Brock Lesnar doesn't retire at SummerSlam. And we get Brock Lesnar Oba Femi for the World Heavyweight Championship, say Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble. I mean, it is possible that Brock does not retire. I mean, that is something we do have to keep in mind here, which is why I say that it is possible that Oba Femi still wins King of the Ring, wins the world title at SummerSlam, but that third match between Oba and Brock would end up being further down the line and for the world title. So I think that is something to keep in the back of our minds as well. But I've also seen a lot of people say, what if Oba Femi pulls double duty at SummerSlam? And this is an interesting scenario, I think. Oba Femi still wins King of the Ring, but Brock Lesnar says, hey, Oba, beat me at SummerSlam, and I will really retire for good. But he has that match against Roman Reigns. And so now you're thinking night one, Oba Femi retires Brock Lesnar. Night 2, he defeats Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight Championship. Or if the WWE wants to delay Oba Femi until WrestleMania, which is something I honestly think would be a very bad decision if they try to delay Oba Femi, because I think you have a star on your hands that you need to push now and take advantage of the momentum he has now and give him the world title at SummerSlam, not delay until WrestleMania. So it could be something where he does retire Brock Lesnar night 1, but then night 2 he loses to Roman Reigns. But the story is that because he got beat up by Brock the night before, it gives Oba kind of an out for why he lost to Roman at SummerSlam. But what if Brock does cost Oba Femi the King of the Ring, paving the way for Jey Uso to beat Dominic Mysterio in the finals, and Jey Uso wins King of the Ring? Because you gotta think here. If Oba Femi is eliminated, okay, there is no more Seth Rollins. Remember, Seth did not win his qualifying match. That was won by Javon Evans. Braun Breaker is not in the tournament no more. So guys that we thought could win the King of the Ring are no longer there. Which does make me think that Brock won't get involved tonight, and that Oba Femi will still win King of the Ring, because realistically that is still the only one left that I think could win. Because if you don't have Seth Rollins or Braun Breaker, then Oba Femi realistically is only one left. But then we get to Jey Uso, where you have this bloodline angle, and the WWE wants to try to push the bloodline again with this new version of the bloodline. And I talked about this in yesterday's video about a super bloodline group with the MFTs and the bloodline merging, fusion, doing like a fusion dance to come together as one big super bloodline faction. And it's one of those things where it seems the WWE is trying to rebuild the bloodline and do what got them to this point. We go back to 2023, 2024. What was carrying the WWE through the pandemic? It was the bloodline storyline. So I understand why the WWE would want to rehash the bloodline storyline, especially at a time when right now fans are down on the product. And ironically, I said this on social media. I said, it's funny because the WWE had all this momentum, and then something happened in January 2025, and that was Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble instead of John Cena. And then after that, everything went downhill for WWE. And like I said, I'm a Jey Uso fan. I was happy for Jey when he won the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. But we've done that. We've seen it. Let's not rehash this again. Like, the thing that really makes me really worried is the fact that the WWE did change the whole King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring tournament rules, where now the winner chooses their champion, which now takes away from the fact that the uniqueness of the Royal Rumble, of winning the Royal Rumble, is that you get to pick whichever brand champion you want to face. But now you're adding that to the King and Queen of the Ring. I think if you're changing that up, and we'll talk about the Queen of the Ring here in just a second, to get, if you're changing up the rules, saying that the winner can choose whatever champion they want, because you want to do, say, Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky, and Io's on Raw, Rhea's on SmackDown, okay, fine. I'm 100% for it. But if we're changing the rules just so we can see Jey Uso turn on Roman Reigns again, then why even bother? Let's move on to the Queen of the Ring here, because this will have a little bit more of an impact when we talk about who could win when we look at who's left. Because Rhea Ripley's knee injury is now looming over this Queen of the Ring tournament. Now, as I just said, the WWE changed the rules where now the winner gets to choose their champion. And if the WWE wanted to do Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley, Io could win Queen of the Ring, and then she goes on to choose Rhea Ripley. But now Rhea Ripley, with her knee injury, it's that dark little shadow now casting over the tournament, because the plans for SummerSlam may have to change depending on how long she's out, the severity, stuff like that, because would the WWE crown a new women's champion ahead of SummerSlam? Honestly, probably so, because we do have that, what will now be insane Saturday night's main event at Madison Square Garden. So if Rhea Ripley did have to vacate the title, then I could see the WWE crowning a new champion, a new women's champion at that show, so that they could still have potentially like Charlotte Flair win the Queen of the Ring tournament. Whereas if Charlotte was supposed to face Rhea, Charlotte can now just face, say, Jade Cargill, who maybe gets the title back, and she's just a short-term champion until Charlotte wins the SummerSlam or whatever the case may be. But then also you have, like I said, you look at Io Sky as a potential here where you do Io versus Rhea, and Io, maybe she chooses Liv Morgan instead of Rhea Ripley or Jade Cargill or whoever the champion may be if Rhea has to vacate the title. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shapes up now once we do figure out the severity of Rhea's injury, because again, we do have Io Sky versus Raquel Rodriguez tonight on Monday Night Raw, Charlotte Flair versus Liv Morgan on SmackDown. So obviously at this point, what is the Queen of the Ring tournament going to be? Is it going to be about the Judgment Day split, the breakup of the Judgment Day? Because that could become the focus of the Queen of the Ring tournament, where maybe we do get Raquel versus Liv Morgan in the finals, and this sets up everything for a Judgment Day split between Raquel and Liv Morgan, with Roxanne kind of in the middle, having to choose whose side is she on. And it's interesting to note that as of the making of this video, the WWE did announce Charlotte Flair versus Roxanne Perez to take place on Raw. So we are going to get some interaction, most likely between Charlotte and Liv Morgan, before Friday Night SmackDown in their match in the semifinals. So it is going to be very interesting to see now, based off of how long Rhea Ripley's injury might derail her, will they need to crown a new champion, that we could potentially be looking at a Judgment Day split, and that the Queen of the Ring tournament does maybe revolve around the Judgment Day a little bit more, with Raquel and Liv, and maybe Io Sky beats Raquel Rodriguez, but then Raquel turns on Liv Morgan anyway, and the winner of the Queen of the Ring, whether that's Io or Charlotte, faces the new champion if Rhea Ripley is out beyond SummerSlam. So, yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. I think the Queen of the Ring tournament just got a little bit more interesting with Rhea Ripley's injury hanging a dark cloud over the tournament, with potentially that changing who could win the tournament, depending on how the WWE wants to book it. But yeah, Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns. Oh man, the IWC. Man, the meltdown the IWC is gonna have if Jey Uso wins the King of the Ring. Ooh, I'm gonna get some popcorn ready. Leave a comment below, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments. Who you think will win based on who is left, and do you see Rhea Ripley's injury playing a role in the tournament, and whether or not she will have to vacate the title again, like she did a couple years ago, and how that will shape up the women's side of things for SummerSlam. I've been your host, Money Mike, and as always, make sure you do hit that like and subscribe button as I do produce weekly wrestling content here at Ringside Cinema.